Hey guys, so I just came back from seeing the movie Top Gun Maverick. What is Top Gun Maverick about? You have Tom Cruise who plays Maverick, and he's this hotshot fighter pilot, and he finds himself in trouble at the beginning of the movie and has to teach the Top Gun Academy, which is the academy he attended in the first movie. Let me just start off by talking about the first Top Gun. I didn't like the first Top Gun, and I'm going to be comparing and contrasting the two movies as I review it here, because I feel like that's the best way to review it. So, the first big problem I had with the first Top Gun movie is the fact that I thought Tom Cruise's character Maverick was basically a Mary Sue. In the first movie, he's this hotshot, he knows everything about piloting, he's the best pilot, and all he has to do is prove to everyone else that he's the best pilot. It makes for a pretty flat story in my opinion. Does that problem still persist in Top Gun Maverick? Yes, I think that's probably the biggest weakness of Top Gun Maverick. Tom Cruise is just a bit too invincible. He's a bit too much of a hotshot. And same problems persist here. In the first movie, what I didn't like is you have Goose's death, which is a big thing that affects Tom Cruise's character. But his death isn't on his hands. They go out of their way to explain, well, it wasn't really Tom Cruise's fault. It was a malfunction in the plane, but still. That's kind of what I don't like about the first Top Gun movie, and those kind of moments persist where as soon as you think Maverick is going to find himself in trouble, finally maybe his hotshot ways are coming to bite him in the ass, that never happens in this movie, so it makes for a Mary Sue in my opinion. Other thing I didn't like about the first Top Gun movie was the Jerry Bruckheimer isms. In this movie, I thought the Jerry Bruckheimer isms work. For those of you who don't really know who Jerry Bruckheimer is, he's most known for doing the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, for producing those. But when you say Jerry Bruckheimer style, you think of movies like Con Air, the Michael Bay movies, those kind of movies. Kind of like what Team America was parodying. Team America is a parody of Jerry Bruckheimer movies, just over-the-top explosions, American propaganda being thrown at you, etc. So I don't really like the Jerry Bruckheimer isms in the first Top Gun movie. That being said, I thought it actually really works in Top Gun Maverick, because I just find myself missing Jerry Bruckheimer kind of movies. I think the reason why I find myself kind of longing for that Jerry Bruckheimer-ism is because Jerry Bruckheimer characters, when they're in the movies, they don't know they're in a movie. And I feel like nowadays, everything is so self-aware. Like when I watched, there was a trailer for the new Thor movie that played before this movie, and I almost feel like Chris Hemsworth is winking to the camera. Just watching this movie, there's some funny moments that work, and all of the characters in the movie are in a movie. They're not turning to the camera and winking at you and doing that shit. So that style is just something you don't really see in the cinema very much these days. So all those moments that are like people in a control room, and there's like all kinds of graphics everywhere, and you think someone is dead, and then oh god, no way, he's still alive. Those kinds of isms. But you know what? They work in this movie. One concern I had going into this movie was, I'm so fucking sick of soft reboots. I'm so sick of, oh, Ghostbusters, let's bring back Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I was scared it would fall into that category, this Top Gun movie. And I'm really happy to say they don't. There are nods to the original movie, but they're done tastefully. Val Kilmer returns in this movie, and what they do with his character is really cool. And there's references to Goose dying. But it's not cheesy, it's not forced. It's not like a Star Wars movie where it's just like, hey, look, the Millennium Falcon. Oh, look, the chessboard. They don't do that kind of thing, which I really did appreciate. It kind of reminded me of the Creed movie. The way they handled the Creed movie is the same way they handled this Top Gun movie. And it could have been really easy for them to go back to the well of the first movie, because there's so many iconic things, like the Highway to the Danger Zone, which does play at the beginning of this movie. But other than that, they don't do the take my breath away moment. There was a, spoilers I guess, there was a sex scene in this movie. Kind of happens off camera though, don't get your hopes up. in case you like watching attractive people having sex. But anyway, there was a sex scene in here, and I was really saying, oh my god, they're gonna do the take my breath away, bam, 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 and they didn't do it. So I feel like it didn't go for the nostalgia bait. Instead, it captured the essence of what the first Top Gun movie was. See, Top Gun, when it came out in the 80s, it was drawing from all these cheesy elements, but of its era. And that's what this Top Gun movie does in 2022. It does have its cheesy moments. It's drawing from cheese in pop culture, but it's still modern cheese. It's not going back to the well cheese. It's not 80s cheese. It's 2022 cheese. There's like a Lady Gaga song that plays at some point in this movie, and it totally works. And just moments where the Chad energy is just so homoerotic. That's another thing too, they recreate the beach sequence, but they don't play volleyball this time around. They play football. And the reason why they're playing football ends up being pretty clever. So instead of it just being like in the first movie, you had just this homoerotic scene where a bunch of sweaty men play volleyball. Here, you still have the sweaty men playing volleyball, but it's for a reason. And I like that. I like sweaty men playing volleyball. But I also like a story behind those sweaty people playing. They weren't playing volleyball, football. Oh Jesus, alright, where am I going with this? Where am I going with this? And guys, I didn't talk about the action yet, because it goes without saying, but what they do with the fighter pilots in this movie, it's awesome. It's just sheer awesome. Putting the camera in the cockpit, watching Tom Cruise do aerial acrobatics, the whole premise at the end, where it's them trying to go down this winding canyon. They can't go too up, if not people are gonna shoot them. Then they have to land a missile on a target and then do this uphill incline. It was really fun to watch that whole set piece actually happen. And I think the first two acts are a little weaker than its third act. Its third act is where this movie really shines, which feels good because most movies do the opposite. I feel like they start strong and then fizzle out. Here's a movie that gets progressively better. Yeah, that final action sequence was so cool. It was really fun to watch. Yeah, action had me on the edge of my seat. Maverick is still Mary Sue. There's a lot of American propaganda in this movie, just a heads up if you don't like that kind of thing. The Jerry Bruckheimerisms work because I found myself craving Jerry Bruckheimerisms. And it's a soft reboot, but it doesn't go back to the well and just feed you member berries and nostalgia bait shit. And you have a nice diverse cast in here, but it's not thrown in your face. Really good summer blockbuster. I don't think it's quite as good as the recent Mission Impossible movies, but it's still very enjoyable. Guys, have you seen this movie? What did you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you like Tom Cruise, or do you think he's just some creepy Scientologist? I had to drag my friends to the theater to watch this movie because they like, Tom Cruise, Scientology guy? Some people still think that. They don't know he's a Chad. Alright, I'll see you folks around.